almost lulled into a sense of false reality there, crashing back to earth. Welcome, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream with myself, Gareth Waxel, the Mini Purple Hats, and of course, Stephanie Mitchell Hughes, Resilience 2.0, a lady who has been through an awful lot, been through hard places, been through bad work situations, COVID, long COVID, and now is out the other side and trying to learn from those experiences. And yet, we often have a discussion talking about what it is to be resilient. And today's topic really, oh gosh, it does smack of giving up, but I refuse to. So the question today is, should we stop trying to be resilient? Stephanie, should we?
The short answer and the big answer is no, we should not stop being resilient. We can't stop being resilient, because to stop being resilient, and it's like you were saying before we came on, to stop being resilient in some respect means simply to give up.
Yes.
And the journey, the life journey continues. You know, it's going to continue until for each of us it stops.
Well, I'm going to cite the same information I did. We speak a lot off air, and I'm an old Jew, and I've read a lot about the topic. Of course, never again is the motto of all Jews now. Never again. Ignoring Israel, please, to our audience, please don't conflate Israel with Jews. Israel's a place and a country run by a horrendous human being called Benjamin Netanyahu. It is not a representative for all Jews. I know a lot of people seem to think that the two are the same. They're not. And Judaism across the world, the motto is never again. And the idea is never to forget what led to the Holocaust, what led to the atrocities accorded us by the Nazis. But people seem to pick and choose what they want to remember. And the truth of the matter is, if you analyze it, first of all, they minimize you as a race. And it could have been Jews, it could have been blacks, it was a mixture of blacks and Jews and disabled and anyone who didn't quite fit their Aryan view. They minimize you. Then they take away some of your rights. Then they ghettoize you. Then they reduce the size of the ghetto. And then they take you off to camps. And then they disappear you. Now, I'm not exaggerating. Look at what's going on around you, folks. People are being minimized. They're being ignored. People are being disappeared, Stephanie. People are being taken from their homes. People are because they have contrarian views. If you are in a country where if you disagree with what your leader says and you do it openly, and somehow your life drastically changes because of it, you are not free. You may think you have freedom. That's not freedom. Freedom is that you can talk about things, and the idea is that you should have your life without trying to cause your neighbor or your friend or your spouse pain or misery. That you live your life happily. I'm sorry, I should get off my soapbox.
Okay, but see, this is the thing. The reason that I asked the question about should we just stop trying to be resilient, in part is related to the moment in history that we happen to be in. But the other thing is that recently I have listened to conversations that some Black women are having.
Right.
Talking about, we just need to just stop trying to be resilient, because resilience sometimes is conflated with always having to be strong. Always having to be on point, always having to defend, always stepping up and using your body and your energy to stand in the gap for other people.
Right.
And other issues and what have you. And I see, but as I've heard those conversations, I have wondered based upon what they have said afterwards, whether they really, really mean being resilient, constantly being strong, constantly being the person called upon to defend and lay our bodies and our own mental and physical health on the line. But and as opposed to that versus taking time out.
So the solid oak who stands there and braces against the storm. But if the storm's too great, the solid oak will be ripped out by its roots and cast aside. But do you know what doesn't get cast aside? The grasses. They flap around in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's strongest, boom. Well, when it's over, they reach towards the sun again. So there is something in what you said and what they say. I think if they're talking about being resilient in the sense of not being beat, just or biding their time, that's true.
Stepping off of the path.
Well,
you know, it's like, okay, there's some people who are going to be resilient and they're going to keep pushing forward. And there are other people who are going to take a different approach. But all of it, I would say, is in service to the overall good. So when people say, well, I'm not going to necessarily focus on being resilient, I see them as saying, I'm going to not so much sit on the couch and cover my eyes and draw the curtain close and just check out. Right. It is, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to regenerate, allow myself my energy, refuel and prepare. It's kind of like to take what you were talking about in terms of the grass. So I don't know about the UK. You guys have seasons just like we do over here.
I don't know. They're all a bit mixed up at the moment. That's what happens when you warm up your climate. But yes, go on.
So one of the things that happens where I live, the place where you can have at least 3 of the 4 seasons in a 24 to 36 hour period.
Well, we live in a temperate region, so the back garden can be raining and the front garden can be sunny.
Okay, so it's, I understand all of that, but one of the things that happens in the fall, my late father used to do this, and many people would do this with their lawns. They would treat their lawn.
A few Brits watching right now, when she says fall, she means autumn.
Yes. Yes. If you do not live in the United States, fall is autumn.
Yeah.
Okay. So what my father would do, and many people will do with their lawns, is they will treat them in the fall. Because in the fall, it's going to rain a lot. Leaves are going to turn colors. If you're in the area of the country where I live, you're going to have leaves turning colors. It's going to look really pretty for a while. And then all of a sudden, November will roll around, torrential rains will fall, and all the leaves will come down. But you treat the grass. And the reason that you treat the grass is so that you don't have since my father is now gone and doesn't really see that stuff happens anymore, you have what my mother has, and that I'm trying to help her deal with, which is you have a huge yard that looks like it is surrounded in ivy or some other type of weed or plant.
Right.
You haven't treated it. But if you treat your lawn, the reason that you treat it is so when March rolls around and it moderates between gray days, sunny days, snowy days, and then April rolls around, and April is the cruelest month. And then I'm quoting that poem, title of the poem, April is the cruelest month. But anyway, I digress. And then May rolls around, and lo and behold, your grass is green and it's lush and it looks really pretty, and it almost makes you forget about the weather that, inconsistent weather patterns that we had to endure.
Yeah.
And so the same thing, I see us in this season, the season that we are in, not the literal season, but when we're talking about resilient and the idea of being resilient all the time, I see some people as taking some time to refertilize, to refurbish, to read, to meditate, to have conversations offline.
But I get all that. But all I know about is back then in the 1930s, when the Nazis started rounding up, and a lot of the Jewish leaders said, don't worry, just wait, it'll all pass and everything will go back to normal. And it just don't. And when they were packed in the trains, they said, just keep it quiet. Don't worry. All this will blow over soon. The point is, I would hate it if black women in America took that attitude. You sometimes need to fight without putting your fists up. If you look at what Gandhi did, that many times when he faced up to the British and they formed columns of men and women, non-combat, till eventually they got him around the negotiating table and said, what can we do to stop this continuing?
But see, this is the thing though, Gareth. I would venture to guess that even Gandhi on some days rested.
Oh yeah.
I mean, even Jesus rested.
No, don't get me right. Don't get me wrong. Gandhi wasn't a very nice man. He beat his wife and he beat his children. He was, but what he did understand is consistency. And I think that if you have been putting up a resistance, vocally or otherwise, and when the going gets tougher than you were expecting, that you pull back and you say, well, we can be quiet now because it will blow over.
Well, and I don't think I've never heard anybody say that though, Gareth. What I've heard people say as I've listened to these conversations is that I am going to pursue a different line, a different way of looking at and handling and responding to what I see happening. I'm not going to completely check out. It's kind of one of those things like running a relay race. Okay. Sometimes you have to, we're in this together, but sometimes you have to be able to sleep. And then I may fight, or I may keep pushing through and pushing forward. I may bring you sustenance. It's like being in, I don't like to use war terms, but being in a type of war, if you will. You sleep, and then I will sleep because I'm going to keep watch. I will get the food this time.
Yeah, but I get all that. But what worries me is in the face of pressure coming from, dare I say it, white Anglo-Saxon men who have made themselves over to American shores and are trying to exert themselves, the ones who feel that they are the upper class of American society, that their views are to diminish rather than extol. And if you let them carry on doing that, eventually you'll be nothing better than indentured slaves.
But this is the thing though, Gareth, and this is where I disagree with you and your thinking about this.
Okay.
So none of what I've talked about in terms of being resilient has anything to do with anyone else than the group of people that I belong to. The group of people, the tribe that I ascribe to the most.
Right.
And that tribe in this instance, and that I'm focused on, are the black women who I have heard
Black Spelman women.
Yeah, and women, talking about looking at and pursuing, not walking away from the fight, but looking at, and this whole notion and sort of not pushing away or saying that resilience is not relevant, that we don't have to be resilient, but looking at ways that they can still take care of themselves, take care of their physical health, take care of their mental health, so that they can continue doing the hard work, but taking a different approach. It's not a thing of where people can come and redefine who we are. No one can ever redefine who I am or make me feel less than myself because I happen to be a Black girl. No one can. No one can ever change that. And one of the reasons, and the primary reason that they can't change that, has nothing to do with whether I'm resilient, whether I'm in the fight. They can't change that for me and the way that I see myself as a Black woman, because I love being a Black woman who is still at her core a Black girl. I would never, ever, ever want to change being other than a Black woman who is still at her core a Black girl. Nothing. So that for me isn't part of the equation. And other people, other colors, other races, they don't have anything to do with whether I am going to continue to be resilient.
No, but what I'm fighting for is I'm worried that there's going to be a cascade amongst all the various parts of American society in the face of the onslaught of certain pressures from without. Let's put it that. And Black women, strong, resilient Black women up until now, will go, well, if we just keep quiet,
Listen. Okay, first of all, let me just say this. I don't claim to be the spokesperson for all Black women.
I don't claim to be the spokesman for all Jews either, but
I'm not, and we are not a monolith. But no. I can tell you, but the thing I'm going to say is, I cannot tell you what any other group of people are planning to do, including Black men. I can't tell you whether they're going to say, if we all just kind of calm down, this is all going to be okay. I can tell you that Black women are not going to respond the way that the Jews responded at the time of the Holocaust. And I'm not going to criticize or say that their approach is bad, good, they were wrong to do that, what have you. But even back at the time of slavery, I don't ever know a Black woman who just said, if we just kind of sit back and we wait, this is all going to be okay. It's all going to blow over. We don't need to worry about this, that, or the other. Absolutely not. That is not the nature and the makeup of Black women, which is the reason that I'm asking this question about, should we stop being resilient? And that's the reason that the conversations that I have heard about not being resilient, that is the reason that I have really been listening to them.
Right.
And if the idea is to take a step back and go rest, truly rest. Last Monday, March the 10th, all Black women were to rest in the United States. It was an all call for Black women for a day of rest for Black women. And it is rarely something that we do, that we even give ourselves permission to do. And
right.
And that's the reason why I advocate for that. I will never criticize somebody for resting, because I know that it's something that I even rarely give myself that opportunity. I've always looked at that as a luxury. And we cannot constantly just go hard all the time. At some point, we have to tell ourselves internally that it is okay. But
All right.
of course, we're going to continue to, Black women will continue to be resilient.
All right. Look,
of course we are.
So you guys, you heard what we think.
Oops.
You've heard what we think. I really would like to hear from some of you. Do you think that Black women are in a position where they just want to lay down and just wait for it all to be over? Which does describe a lot of people's marriages. But anyway, moving on. Or did I say that? Yeah, I did. Or should they be staying there, shaking their fists, not taking this shit anymore? You come back to me. But look, until next time, thank you so much, Stephanie. I value these conversations. We have the talks that people should be having, but instead of having them in private, we're having them nice and public. And I'm hoping that somebody listening to this will go home and say, "That's Stephanie. What do you think?" That's what I want. If we can ignite conversation and critical thinking amongst more people, then I'll feel that we're doing our job. Until next time, please keep reaching for the stars, keep your feet on the ground, and do look after that mental health. Have a lovely weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.